G'day and welcome to another look at a graphical organiser. This time we're going to have a look at persuasive, evaluation and supporting a position. The focus for today, we're having a look at English Lit or with LOT or with SOS or even with drama. What I've got for you here is to begin with having a look at the recall areas for lower order thinking. And this stuff you can probably put on a whiteboard, chuck on some butcher's paper to show with the kids, even get them to put on their own computer screen and they can go back and do some sort of digital editing. The idea, and I'll just grab my pointer here, put together all of your 4 statements, all the ones that might be your driving forces, your main arguments, the main points you want to get across, and all the other side just to get your against. I like using arrows because it has that sort of, puts the emotion behind each of the sides as well. It also shows that these ideas are meant to be sort of conflicting to get them into place. Students can list below each of the different sort of examples and data as they go along. And the idea is to get them to think about both sides of the equation so they can see what ranking it might be in, what order it's there. Also to fully appreciate that there might be a complex and maybe even a controversial or an unresolved sort of question. You can write your question across the top here just to give them sort of a bit more focus, put it on the whiteboard, or you can just give it to them and they have to think about it in their head and let their head run through the possibilities. To go into the higher order thinking, what I tried to show here is that the actual flow-on effect. So if I go for this as one of my 4 positions, how will that flow into my next 4 statement? So is there a flowing connecting part? So they might come with a proposition and then say this proposition then supports the next proposition, which then go on to the 3rd proposition as it comes through. This can be great for debating or supporting a theme or a mood that might come across. It can be particularly powerful because it's trying to connect all of the ideas in the student's head. Sometimes across doing this sort of style allows for the ideas to come together, but the causation of events or the flow of events may not be as strong. By having the arrows down the side can allow the student to sort of see, I can see this go onto this, go onto this, go onto this. The same can get repeated in the against areas. So I might say this first one flows on with this point and flows on with this point. People can put on the side here maybe even some examples, maybe even a picture or some data numbers just to show the linkage. It can be great for showing up that continuation sentence into next paragraphs, or that I've got this is my main idea on one page and to get it to flow onto the next, this is the next main idea. Hopefully there's some good ideas here for you, but it's connecting those pathways sometimes can be a bit stronger than having it sort of scattered down. It just falls and against. Let's have a look at another one. Okay, this is your usual sort of strengths and weaknesses sort of style. So the students again would list them, but the idea is that they're going to start comparing strengths versus weaknesses and adding some sort of evaluation or judgment behind their statements. So before you might have 4 statements and against statements, the idea now is to sort of push that idea, is it a strength? Will it actually bring about some major improvements? And I understand this is a bit sort of maybe semantics. What's 4 versus strengths? What I'm trying to suggest is maybe the 4 might be just the data and the numbers, some compelling ideas. The strengths maybe has some emotional statements, some more emotive language attached to it. It can be for both sides, but I'm trying to push maybe one's emotion, one maybe data. That could be completely wrong. How I can push it into the higher order strengthening though, is I like putting these sort of scales. And the scales across here, I like the students to start stacking them up. So I'll take all of my strengths and put them in a big stack and all of my weaknesses in another. With these ones, you can just do the number. How many strengths do we have versus how many weaknesses? But the idea with the scale is to see where's the tipping point. When would it actually cause this scale to then fall completely over, as in the argument is so compelling with weaknesses that it would cause the scale to tip? The idea is sort of the balancing, because sometimes numerically it might do it. Some students might say this point here is not numerically very strong as it hasn't been repeated many times, but the weight of it, its emotional aspect to it or the mood is so strong that it carries more weight. These are just some ideas. But I like the idea of the scale as a visual part because it allows them to see where's the tipping point in the argument to get that person to maybe support my position. Let's have a look at another one. On here, this is kind of like a mind map, And I'm trying to push the idea that you've got data as well as examples, so qualitative and quantitative, to support a position for what the argument might actually be. Here they can come with as many as they possibly can to get the driving. How is this actually contributing to my argument? How is this contributing to my point of view? What I try to do on the other side is I try to put them both together so they recall and they contrast. So this is my argument versus the counter argument that may come up. So it's about developing those anticipation skills. I'm trying to be persuasive, so how can I get the strongest data that's then going to try to meet the counter argument that might come from the other side? This is kind of like that old lawyer trick of trying to guess what the opposition might say before they even say it, so I can prepare for that statement. By putting both sides on there, a counter argument and the argument itself, I'm trying to get them to contrast the two positions to allow their mind to open up to both sides and to anticipate what might come next. Look at the last one. And on here, I've got like a recall and sort of a classify sort of thing. So what's the actual event that occurred? And then sort of going out so the students can start mapping the actual logical sequence. This is kind of a little bit different to that mind map where the arrows are going in. These are like the arrows are going out into stages so they can follow through. So scene 1 or scene 2, or in the grammar patterns, how it comes together. What I try to do to get it to go into higher order thinking is then to start thinking about what was the actual theme and the mood to this part, and start judging it. So they might say in this event, discussing amongst themselves, what was the mood that came across after I felt it? And that might show the link of why it came into stage 1, and then the mood that might go into stage 2. This is designed to get the students to judge the feel and the tone of it. What comes out of the movie? What comes out of the poem? What comes out of the historical event that's an overarching for each of the bits? You could on top of this add in even another one, so they can keep building up and go, what's the overall mood that's meant to come across, and then broken into sub-moods, and these can be seen through the different stages in the events as they continue along. All of these tools, of course, have their time and place. This one here could be good when you're trying to set the scene, maybe to recap at the end so they can see where the patterns all come together. Okay, that's enough from me today. Hopefully you got some ideas out of here about trying to get persuasive or evaluation or supporting position so the students can start seeing the connections to come together, and also to push them into the sort of higher order thinking to see that meta sort of thinking. How does it all come together in my mind? Alright, I'll see you again in another video.